Welcome to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Frank talk about sex and dating.
Hello, everyone. Tamara here. Welcome to the show. As promised, I'm going to talk to another ex, and today's guest is my ex, David, and we'll be talking about our past dating and sex lives. If you like this episode, be sure to tell your friends about it and rate it as well. Thanks for joining me, David.
Great to be here.
Yes, hopefully. And just for the record, for the last one, my ex-husband did ask if he could redo it because he felt bad that he was a little mean. So I told him it's fine, whatever. It's already up. So we'll see how this second one goes. So my first question to get started, what do you remember most about our time together? And it was a long time ago, but do you have?
Well, I'm sorry. Can I ask first? I'm just curious how long this series goes. I mean, I'm number two of how many? Can I ask that?
Sure. Well, I've talked to one other, at least, two others who mentioned wanting to be on my podcast previously. For whatever reason, they just like the idea. One was a guy I dated who, when I was doing stand-up comedy regularly, and he went to my shows, so he always thought it would be cool to be on, and he kind of liked the idea of being talked about even. So I haven't asked him yet. I haven't asked the other one yet either. So you are number two of potentially four, and we'll see.
All right. I'm just curious. I'm ready. I want to win
it. Yeah. All right. So back to the question then.
So you asked me what my memory, my main memory?
Yeah, what do you remember most? What do you about us or that time? I mean, it was also it's a long time ago. So either reflect on where you were at that time or how we were, or we can start from the beginning,
Sure.
To refresh the memory. I will just set the tone of where we were. You were either I was giving a briefing or we were both at a briefing on base because we were Air Force, or I don't mention being in the military on this podcast, but whatever. And then we saw each other, and then it took a while to actually talk again. I forget how you had gone on a date with my friend and I always thought you were cute, and I forget how we even started. Louise, yes.
Oh, I don't remember. Your memory is sharper than mine.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you at the gym, and I do remember we had mutual acquaintances, mutual friends, and I remember going out once or twice. But I remember it as a great relationship. I don't recall even how long it lasted, but it was more than quickly. And I thought it was fantastic. If you recall, we fell into a rhythm of staying at your place primarily and dating, but also, spending many nights together. And I remember much of it was over a stretch of winter in what was a pretty cold location. And it was just great. They were great times. I mean, I thought it was a great relationship. I hadn't had some sort of extensive dating history by that time. I guess I was in my mid-20s, early 20s, mid-20s. I had a few serious girlfriends before that. And, I thought it was a good relationship and a lot of fun and very positive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mostly remember that too. I think our communication style was maybe a little different sometimes. I wanted more communication, and you had your times where you needed your space and less time together. And that goes back to, I know I've talked about wanting to share things for the listeners too, attachment styles, because mine was an anxious attachment style. I wanted, I probably would have liked more time, and my love languages are quality time and touch. We definitely handled the touch part, and quality time when we were together was definitely quality. But I think there were times where I wanted more communication, but I definitely remember the good times too.
Yeah, it's funny, your whole, I heard your episode with your ex-husband, and one of the main premises being change over time. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like even talking about this now, 25 years later or whatever it is, it's still, you're still prone to talk past each other a little bit. I mean, you have different memories. I have different memories. I mean, your complaints or your observations are fair. That's for sure. But yeah, what I didn't see then, I'm not sure I even see it now, So, I mean, you tell me, I mean, your observations seem very fair.
Yeah. I mean, it was, but I always thought of you as the one that got away. So, I mean, obviously there was more positive than negative for sure.
Well, just to go back and catch up, catch the audience up on kind of the build to it. If I'm sure you probably recall this, that, we had one or two dates and then it wasn't really going anywhere. And then for whatever reason, one night it got comfortable all of a sudden and we kind of fell into it, and it was really great from then on, or for however long it lasted, which I don't know. It was something in what, 3, 4, 5 months, that kind of range.
Yeah, actually, I think it was longer than that. No, I was going to say our first date. I remember our first date. Like you said, it didn't go really well. Like we went to a bar near your place, and then we went back to your place, and you fell asleep. And we were listening to loud music, and I was just sitting on the couch while you fell asleep. And I was like, okay. And then I can't remember what we did the second time. But yeah, like you said, it was. Then we like.
Well, some of that's by design. I mean, I've always, most women, they like it if you hold back a little bit at first and you don't jump their bones immediately.
True. Yeah. I mean,
and also it's the right thing it's ultimately the right thing to do also, at least, to an extent. I mean, they don't want someone that's too careful or too cautious, but.
Yeah. I mean, you were left wanting more, but then because of it, you fell asleep. I was like, I wasn't sure. Like, I can't even remember how we got the second one.
Man, you are coming at me with some detail.
Yeah, I mean,
I should have really prepped for this some more.
Well, and I don't really have like that great of a memory either. It's just there's like certain ones that stand out. Because remember, if you remember this, we were sitting on my couch looking at my pictures, and there was a picture of the two of us.
Yeah.
Randomly from 4 years ago. We were hanging, my classmates and I were hanging out, and you had come by and like saw a party, and you're like, hey, let me sit down. And you ended up like, we literally had a picture. We were like, what? Here's the picture of the two of us. And we didn't like, it was just random. You were a random guy that came over. So I just thought that was cool at the time watching that. But yeah, so back to how great it was.
You were a little older than I was, right?
Yeah. It's like 6 years older.
I like that. I still like, I mean, I've always liked that. Women who are a little bit more mature, have some, more life experience. I thought that was very, very sexy. And I thought that was one thing that, made the relationship go. As you...
And we went on several trips too.
We did. Although...
Go ahead. You were going to say...
Yeah, I would say that the physical part was amazing. Those are some real highlights. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but the physical part was awesome. There was tremendous chemistry. We did go on a couple of trips, and that was actually one thing I don't think worked great. I'm a little more, I don't know what it is. When we went on trips, I mean, we slept till like 2 p.m, if you recall. Like,
yeah, true. You did prefer to like get out and do stuff. And I remember the one hotel, it was like had those blackout curtains, so we had no idea like how long we were sleeping.
So I'm thinking, like, at the time, I'm thinking,
or staying in bed.
I'm thinking if I stick it out with this person, I'm not sure what my lifestyle is like. Like, I'm not sure I can remain a functioning member of society.
Because we wanted to stay in bed all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to do some trips, and it was like, I'm not sure how much of those locations we actually saw, but I mean, I'm saying that somewhat tongue in cheek, but at the time it was kind of a head scratcher.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, good point. Yeah, I do remember. Like, I remember you were like, what? It's 2:00 because of the blackout curtains. But I remember, well, for me, I liked it because it was my quality time thing. So
yeah.
We're sitting next to each other on the plane. While we get there, we're like staying in a hotel together. So of course, I just remember all that part of it, like just being close to you and having quality time. So that was enough for me. Like, I've always been someone like, I don't care what I'm doing. I don't have to be doing anything as long as I'm with the person I'm with.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can lend to not getting out as much. Being good with that.
Yeah. I know. And I think maybe that's something that guys struggle with. And I struggle with it. You want to be in a relationship that's intimate, that's close, that's comfortable, but I know that from my perspective, I also want to be in a relationship where the other person has other diversions, other, hobbies, maybe is one way to put it, other interests, so that there isn't this intense, so
Yeah.
that the focus on the relationship and me isn't quite so intense, and maybe the responsibility that I carry for that person's happiness is not so great. So at this
Yeah.
point in my life, I'm starting to think about that codependency or dependency within a relationship, and how healthy is it really to put so much focus on the other person and all the qualities or lack thereof of the relationship.
No, yeah, you definitely make good points on that. And that's something I used to struggle. Well, I guess probably why I haven't been in relationships too much lately. I definitely have that habit, or had that habit of putting all my emphasis on the guy and talking about the relationship nonstop, especially to friends who get really annoyed by that. But now that I have a podcast, and I used to do stand-up comedy, and I have many other things in the gym and friends. But yeah, when I really like someone, I want to, which is not advised, put all my focus and like shut everyone else out and only focus on the person. And I definitely don't do that more. But yeah, that's a good point. It's not necessarily the healthiest. And I do remember one other reason you weren't sure about us long term, because you weren't sure if I would get along with your friends, or if I would fit in with your world of friends or friend world.
Yeah, it's probably dysfunctional, but I end up attracted to women and getting involved with women usually that are a break from, they're different, and they're a break from this other life I have with my old friends. And I don't know why that is. It's probably not for the best. It's probably largely my own problem on some level. But that's not just you specifically. I think I do that habitually.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people have their patterns. Like, it's not necessarily like their type or their pattern. And it goes back to, I know we talked about this, the Imago theory, which I mentioned on the ex-husband podcast, where you're drawn to people for certain reasons. And yeah, it could be, it's not going to work. So that's why you're drawn to the person, because you're afraid of commitment. So
Right.
you pick ones that probably wouldn't work. But yet I never met them, so we wouldn't know. So yeah, who knew? I could have been like, but yeah, I mean, and I was always, because you were always, like you're saying before, you didn't want me to be the focus. And yet I was trying to have you be my focus. So the responsibility you felt kind of had you pull away. And then that brought my anxiousness and my neediness out more. Because you were soon after my ex-husband, like a year or two later. So I was still in that mode pre-landmark where I was extra needy. So yeah, and I can never, like, the physical stuff is definitely good, but I could never like feel it close, like my first boyfriend, where I had like the kind of orgasms where I was like Addie Murphy used to talk about this, when she had the ooh, ooh, ooh of like the amazing chemistry orgasm where you can't let the guy go. And it took me 2 years to get over him. Mm. So I've never let myself get like, unless I'm sure that the other person is into me, I can't like let go as much physically. Granted, it was still amazing, like you said, but like emotionally, orgasmically, I couldn't quite be as close.
Yeah. Well, you said it. I mean, there's people can sometimes that's the appealing thing, at least initially, is that there's a little bit of a distance. It seems safer somehow. And maybe this is more of a guy thing. I thought what was initially very attractive, I still feel this to an extent. I think you're somewhat of an opaque person, in that there's more than meets the eye. There's so many interesting things going on, sort of behind the first impression. I think that's very attractive for both positive and negative reasons.
Yeah, I have people tell me all the time, like, especially having done stand-up, like they're like, when they meet me in person, they could never in a million years guess that I would have done that, because I speak quietly. Like I was telling someone just yesterday, he said hi, and I said it back, but he's like, hello. And I'm like, I said it. He's like, oh, I didn't even hear you. And I'm like, yeah, I used to do stand-up where I had a microphone in front of my mouth and people still couldn't hear me because it's just like, and then like Seinfeld back in the day, an ex used to say that I was like the low talker from Seinfeld and all the stuff about trailing off at the end. Like, so yeah, actually, I need to add him to the list. I haven't asked him yet, but he's another good one to have on.
That's starting to happen to me now. I think at this point in my life, I'm living in my head so much that if people approach me to talk without any warning, I can hardly get words out. But hey, look, for my part, I had orgasms, no problem whatsoever. They were full up orgasms, 100%.
Yes, I do remember that.
Cold nights at your apartment, night after night, were quite frankly one of the highlights of my entire relationship history.
Yeah, I do. I remember because, and I like sleeping by the side away from in England where we were, the heaters are right next to one side. So I slept on the opposite side, but then my alarm clock was over there. So I always had to reach over you to get the alarm set.
Every time you adjusted your alarm clock, we made love.
Yes, because I had to like hover over you to reach it.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah. We can keep going along this vein, or I was going to bring up something else.
No, let's not keep going along that vein because it'll get completely out of hand.
All right. Well, and it's totally unrelated, but I know like I was like, you used to think you preferred short women and I was taller than you normally dated. And I used to always tout the loveliness of a tall woman.
Yes.
With the long legs and all the things or whatever. So, and I was always like happy that I took you away from your normal type. But then of course you ended up marrying a short girl. So I guess that was short lived. But
my normal type is a petite brunette. Maybe some kind of Mediterranean features, dark features. And you are not that, but yeah, you should be proud of your ability to represent that demographic. I mean, it's all good. You did break me out of that habit, and I went willingly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's still your type of the shorter thing, but for a short while, you were all about taller girls. Because
yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing in society. Like there was a guy I went out with a few times. And I was like, yeah, it's so weird that like super tall guys end up with short girls. He's like, well, it's like the two ideals get together. Women want tall men and men want short women. So of course they're going to get together. But it's just like so baffling to me. Their parts don't match. Like, why would you want to stoop down and like get up and like break your back to kiss each other and touch each other? And granted, when you're laying down, maybe it's better. Not that you're like overly tall, but I mean, you're fairly tall.
Well, we had no issues.
So just, exactly, because we were the right height.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that you cured me, but you certainly opened my eyes.
All right, I'll take that. I will take that. All right. So like well, I guess we kind of talked about this. I was going to ask like what worked and what didn't, but I mean, if you feel like you already answered that, you don't have to, unless there's more to say.
I don't know. It's complicated. I mean, it was good chemistry, the right time for both of us, to have a relationship. It was great.
I do remember my parents were coming out to visit me, and I was like, wanted you to meet them. And at first you said no. And then you showed up because I used to play crud. For those that would not understand what this is, it's like football around a pool table, kind of like a very physical sport. Mm-hmm. Mostly guys play, and I really love it. And I played it, and had my parents come watch me in action playing the game. And then you showed up to the club where we were playing the game. And I think you ended up talking to them before I officially introduced you. Like you said hi or something.
Oh, I'm great with parents.
Yeah.
I'm better with parents than I am the woman.
Yeah.
Always have been.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what else. I feel like there's something more we should talk about. Or is that kind of like...
I mean, we can talk about, it's terrible, but we can talk about the end.
Yeah. I mean... Well, all right. So how I remember it, how you remember it. Who wants to go first?
Well, I mean, I think it goes along with some of the things you were talking about in your last X-Files episode. Like a lot of young guys who are not officially committed, I went missing in action for a weekend to, meet up with another girl. It wasn't like a very intense thing. It was more of like a curiosity thing. Like, here's this other girl. Let me meet this other girl real quick. I don't know. I don't recall how committed we were. You could probably tell me better than I could then and now. But I did the idiot thing and disappeared one weekend, and you were rightfully suspicious of it. And, I think things kind of went downhill from there. There wasn't like an explosion, but whatever, it ended.
Yeah, well, it was kind of more, it was like more off and on than that. But so for context, Christmas morning was when you had a date and left. Like, there's a couple of these. Yeah. I mean, you said come over for Christmas Eve. My friend was dating your friend and roommate, so it worked out. The four of us met up Christmas Eve, and then Christmas morning, you're like, okay, time to go. And I was like, huh? And so that was very traumatic for me. And first time I ever saw a therapist was Christmas when I called. And then I saw her a few days later. But yeah, so, and I'm starting to tear up about that. So apparently it affected me. But yeah, she was a great therapist, so it worked out. But yeah, so I was, and you didn't tell me until years later that you had a date. Like, I thought it was like something with your mom or some kind of memory, some kind of issue where you had to like duck out. So that was, and then a friend of mine was like, oh, you should break up with them, was giving me all this advice. And then turns out as soon as I broke up with you, he like hit on me. So I was like, what the? So then I came back to you. I was like, I don't know if we should break up because this guy tried to say we should break up, and then he hit on me. So yeah. But yeah, the very, very end was me leaving town. Like, I was moving to a new base, and I was staying with you for the last few weeks while I was moving my stuff out of my apartment. And then another girl was interested in you, and you were going to see her after I left. But I was like, just wait till I leave. So it was very off and on and interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if the one you recall was the Christmas thing or a different weekend.
No, I'm talking about that Christmas thing. Yeah, I'm talking about that Christmas thing. It was just cavalier. It's a typical thing. Being cavalier with something that is probably much more serious to the other party. It's irresponsible. But there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And it definitely took you a while to admit that it was just a date. And then I ran into your friend from back then. It was like the craziest thing in the Pentagon. We were taking this class together, and I was like, yeah, David just told me. He's like, I knew. I went to your house asking him, and he's like, I don't know. But he knew and just wouldn't tell me. So bro code of not telling the chick what's up. But yeah. So, yeah. And then, so that was really, I mean, we still communicated over the years, and obviously we are still in touch now. So it's not like all bad. And we have, and like I said, we both have positive memories, more good than bad memories, I would say.
Yeah. I certainly, you didn't do, I don't think you did anything wrong. I think I listened to the last episode with your ex-husband. I mean, I don't think you have much to apologize for there either. You're a very decent person. I mean, maybe a little too hard on yourself. The way of the world is, guys are a little bit cavalier, and then maybe just the matchup just doesn't have legs.
Yeah, I know we and then like men are not always, like, there are avoidant and anxious attachment styles, and it seems like. And as an anxious person, I generally attract avoidant types. Like, that's just how it works. You kind of go push and pull back and forth. And my neediness was making you more avoidant than you were normally.
Yeah, I don't know, Tamara. I mean, I don't think you give yourself enough credit. I wonder if you give yourself enough credit. You're a cool person. Relationships are complicated. I don't envy your job here on this podcast. It's very, very complicated and elusive.
Yeah, I mean, I read all the things and try to share the wisdom that I learned. So, and I've learned a lot. over the years. And like we talked about, this was a while ago. So pre-landmark, like I always say, because that definitely was life-changing for me. And just learning that, and that's where I started taking more responsibility, like almost too much responsibility for the past issues. But yeah, any parting words?
No, it's great to talk. I've been wanting to do this show since I learned about it, since I learned you were doing it. It's a great show. It's great to be here. It's great to talk to you. And I'll look forward to the results of this X-Files competition. If there's a runoff, let me know. And I'm not sure about this guy getting a redo, by the way. That seems a little sketchy.
Yeah, he's not. Like, he had his chance. And he said, just to clarify, he said that like all the stuff was bubbling up, kind of like when I was starting to cry earlier about the Christmas thing. Like all these feelings were welling up for him of those times. And I was definitely hard on him. So that's, yeah. I mean, he always said I made up for it too. Oh, and I did remember one thing. I used to like write you cards and like drop off, like, you like this, I forget if it's Thin Mints, one of the cookies. And I would like just drop it at your doorstep and like do all this like sweet stuff that I hardly ever do or have done since then. Like, I don't even remember. I'm like, there was one other ex that I did that with. I was engaged the first before and never got married. I would send him cards too. I don't know when that stopped for me. It's been a minute. I forgot I used to do it. So, I mean, I guess no one does cards anymore anyways, but it's all electronic. But
it's a very nice thing to do.
I don't know why. Yes, I know. You seem to appreciate it at the time. All right. Well,
Probably not. Probably not. That's my bad. That's my loss.
Yeah. You probably faked it well enough to make it seem like you liked it at the time. I don't know. All right. Well, I don't know. I don't know how to end this. Like, I guess you kind of said your parting words of you like the show, and thank you for that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to explore something decades later like this. And I look forward to hearing the next episode.
All righty. Yes, I have a few good ones lined up. More talk from sex. There's a sexology person and some other coaches and stuff.
Sounds good.
Coming up in between my X-Files. All right. Well, thank you for being on. If you like this episode, be sure to tell your friends about it and rate it as well. And like and subscribe and follow and all the words. All right. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks, David.
Frank Talk, sex and dating educates.